Hey friends, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Morgan and you are on my homestead here in Wyoming, and I'm super excited because we are going to be kicking off in August, maybe a little bit of September, Pantry Challenge. So if you've been here for a while, you probably know in January we did a Pantry Challenge. It was a 6-week Pantry Challenge, and I know that's kind of the thing that a lot of homesteaders do in January, just to kind of kick the year off on a clean note and just kind of a fresh start. And so we did that and I absolutely loved it. We did such an amazing job at cleaning out a ton of the food that's just kind of been sitting around that I've maybe forgotten about or that I wanted to clear out or I wasn't sure what to do with. So I'm super excited because I've been thinking about it, and I was thinking it's great to do it in January, great to kind of purge and start the year over fresh, but right now is kind of when we're in a surplus of a lot of the things that our land is producing. So our chickens have an abundance of eggs. We are getting so many eggs every single day, probably around 12. So we have a ton of eggs. Our garden is starting to produce too. Here in Wyoming, everything's a little bit later, so we don't have any ripe tomatoes yet, but we are getting some zucchinis, some peppers, a lot of herbs. So I figured, why not use this time to really utilize the fresh produce that is coming out of the garden? And obviously we will be preserving a lot of it, but I think last year I was so focused on preserving, save it up for the winter, that I didn't appreciate the moment of fresh produce that I had. We obviously ate a lot of it, but I just feel like I was in a different mindset. And so I'm hoping that this Pantry Challenge will remind me that it's okay to not preserve every single thing and to eat a lot of the things fresh and get through them in that way. And obviously I can do some prep in different ways as well. Rather than just canning or freeze drying, I can also start cooking things like bread, zucchini breads for example, to really get using the abundance of eggs, the zucchini, and all of the things that are coming out of the garden. So with that in mind, I've put together a couple of rules for myself just so that there's a little bit of structure going into this. I love myself some good structure, so I want to make sure that I kind of know. And then there's a few things we're going to be doing a little bit differently. So here is my list of rules. Let's run through them. So first thing is, this right now is the prime time for a lot of things that I can't grow. So we have a ton of local farmers markets, and right now is when they're getting things and are able to share them. So things like cherries and peaches and local honey, those things are really easy to access right now, whereas in the winter they're really hard to come by. So first things first is I will not be buying any meat, dairy, grains, vegetables, anything like that, but what I am allowing myself is fruit and things that we can't produce here on the homestead, in the sense of things that are naturally made, like honey. So if we find a great deal on honey, let's say, I'm gonna allow myself to buy that, along with some fruit. Fruit is like my guilty pleasure. I absolutely love fruit, and now is when it's the absolute best. So I don't want to deprive ourselves of getting fruit when it's in season and when it's just absolutely delicious. So I'm gonna allow us to go to the farmer's market for fruit and things like honey, but all things are gonna be locally sourced, and I won't be buying, oils, grains, anything along those lines. The next rule is I will be out of town for 1 week of August, and so it's really important that I remind myself that this is my Pantry Challenge. This is not Sam's Pantry Challenge. So while I'm out of town, the Pantry Challenge will be paused, and Sam is gonna be able to do whatever he wants. He can eat out, he can go to the grocery store, he can feed himself however he wants. I have freezer meals here for him. I have other things here that he can eat, but this is my Pantry Challenge. This is not his Pantry Challenge. So we will probably be putting a pause in the Pantry Challenge for 1 week, just while I'm out of town. So that is our second rule. And then finally is, my goal right now is to clean out the freezer. So we are headed into hunting season. We have a lot of tags this year, and so I want to make sure that if everything works out, we have a place to store all this meat. So we do a lot of our own processing, which means we need to be able to have enough room to store the meat and turn it around really quickly and put it away. When you go to a processor, sometimes it takes like a month to get your meat back, so you can kind of mentally prepare and start cleaning things out. But when you process your own meat, you don't really have that wait time. So it's important that we, going into hunting season, have a full freezer totally empty. So my goal is to really be cleaning out the freezer. So I have a lot of things that I can start preserving, and while I do love like frozen veggies, for example, I want to think of other ways that I can preserve things beyond just freezing them. So that could mean freeze drying things and really just reducing the amount of like raw materials and focusing on putting them in things, freeze drying them, preserving them different ways. So we'll see how that all goes. I'm gonna take you with me and we are gonna go check out the freezer just so you can kind of see the starting status of it. We're really close to getting one of them totally empty, which that's the goal, but I'm gonna show you all of the meat, dairy, everything that we're starting with, and then we're gonna kick this pantry challenge off. All right, friends, so here is the freezer. As you can see, it's pretty empty. So this is the goal. This is the freezer we want to get cleared out. Obviously not everything has to go. So I have some onions down here that are sealed off from last year's onion harvest. So I'm not gonna like rush those or anything. Not too worried, they don't take up much room. But meat-wise, I just want to try to get everything out. So I have one more bag of peaches down here that I need to get out of the freezer from last summer. So maybe I'm thinking like a cobbler or something along those lines. I do have a good amount of dairy, so I have a gallon of milk here, and then I have 5 half gallons up here. So we want to get those knocked down a little bit just so I can kind of restock those, but I do always try to have a good amount of milk here. Then I have 3 bags of steaks left. That's it. That's from our 2021 wild game, and I think that's just an antelope and a little bit of elk left. So we want to try to get those cleared out. And then on this door I have a little bit of bear sausage left, so chorizo and German sausage there. Looks like I only have about 4 packs of that, so we'll probably be able to get through that, no problem, with some breakfast. I have coffee creamer. I know this is terrible for you, but I'm a real sucker for it. Life's all about balance, right? And then let me bring you up a little bit. And then here you can see our freezer really needs to be defrosted. We have had this plugged in for quite a long time, and it's just starting to accumulate a ton of ice on it, and so I want to get this cleared out. That way we can unplug it, drain it, and then start over with all of like the ice and stuff. But on this level, I have 2 bags of marinated chicken, looks like 3 containers of stuffed shells left, and then 2 pizza kits. And then I do just keep a little bit of ice, like bags of ice. Just the amount of times that we have impulsively needed to pack a cooler for something, or Sam's headed out on a hunting trip and we forgot ice, something like that, I always just try to keep a bag or 2 of ice in the freezer. So that's all that's in that freezer. Now let's go check out the full freezer, and this is the freezer that we'll really be eating off of this coming winter and this year. So let's go look at how much meat we have in there. All right, so here's freezer number 2. As you can see, it's pretty much all wild game, and it's all things that we have packaged or processed ourselves. So in the door here, we have roasts. Then up here, I have maple sausage and a few bags of brats. I actually forgot we had those, so I'm excited to be doing this. Then on this level, we have burger. This is all elk burger. We have some steaks, so tenderloin steaks. We have another roast, more burger, and then up here we have even more steaks. So this is all meat. We do have a lot of room in here to be able to kind of consolidate and add some meat and kind of get through this, but we can definitely use this freezer to put meat in as well. So I'd say by the end of this, we should have about a full freezer and a half to be able to use for hunting season this year. All right, last thing I want to touch on is these freezer locks. So because we have upright freezers, we did put some locks on them. I cannot risk the chance of having a door that does not shut all the way because we have so much invested into these freezers. So these are super easy to operate. You just pull it and then pinch that and lift it and then push it down to close it. All right, friends, so that is it for our rules and just kind of prep of the pantry and freezer challenge. I hope you consider subscribing so you can come along and follow us on these challenges. I do have a ton of other videos on pantry challenges, so if that's an interest to you, I will link them down below. Please give this video a like if you did, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye, friend.